"I need a man who can plant a seed of an heir deep and steady," the widow told the shy and lonely cowboy. Wind howled across the endless prairie as night swallowed the last streaks of pink from the western sky. A single lantern flickered on the porch of a weather-beaten farmhouse, throwing long shadows onto the frozen ground. Inside, a widow knelt beside her small kitchen table, calloused hands trembling as she read the final page of an old letter that smelled faintly of smoke and sorrow. Her husband's words, written before the accident that stole him, spoke of dreams they would never share. Children's laughter in the halls, a strong family to carry on the homestead. Now those dreams lay like dust on the floorboards, and she faced a brutal winter alone. If you believe in kindness, and second chances that bloom like wildflowers even in life's harshest seasons, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to True Soul Stories so more hearts can feel the power of hope. Martha Hayes was not a woman who broke easily, but loneliness has a way of cracking even the strongest spirit. Her farm sat on the edge of an unforgiving frontier, where bitter winds bit through thin coats and silence could ring louder than church bells. Each morning she woke before dawn, tending to the cattle and patching fences until her shoulders ached. Each night she sat at the same table, staring at the empty chair her husband once filled. The fields still needed plowing, the barn roof sagged with rot, and the bank's letters, polite but cold, warned that time was running out. Neighbors offered quiet condolences but kept their distance. Grief makes people uncomfortable. Yet beneath Martha's stoic resolve lived a yearning deeper than her fear of ruin, a longing to fill the house with life again, to honor her husband's dream of an heir, to feel love's warmth in the endless chill, miles away. Caleb Boone spent his days breaking wild horses and his nights breaking his own silence. The shy, lanky cowboy had a heart as big as the plains, but wore his solitude like a second skin. He had once believed in romance, but years of watching others build families while he drifted from ranch to ranch had dulled those hopes. Folks said he was gentle with animals and awkward with people, a man more comfortable with a spooked mare than a social gathering. Still, he carried a quiet kindness that neighbors noticed when he thought no one watched, mending a stranger's fence, feeding strays on cold mornings, leaving split firewood at the doors of the elderly. Caleb didn't think of himself as lonely until he began to notice the silence waiting for him each time he rode home. At dusk, their worlds collided, one wind-whipped morning when Caleb stopped at the general store and overheard the town gossip. A widow on the far ridge, alone and desperate, needed help before winter swallowed her farm. Something in the story stirred him, a pull he couldn't explain. Maybe it was the memory of his own mother's struggle after his father passed. Or maybe it was the simple ache of recognizing another solitary soul. That evening, he rode through the fading light, a basket of supplies strapped to his saddle. The farmhouse stood quiet, smoke curling from the chimney. Martha answered his hesitant knock with wary eyes, a shotgun resting against the wall. He tipped his hat and offered a soft-spoken greeting, his voice steady despite the rush of nerves. Days turned into weeks as Caleb returned to repair fences, mend the roof, and help with the cattle. At first, Martha kept her guard up, speaking little and watching him with cautious curiosity. But the rhythm of shared labor has a way of eroding walls. They laughed when a calf tumbled into a feed trough, and when the first snow arrived. They worked side by side to clear the heavy drifts from the barn doors. Caleb admired the fierce strength beneath Martha's grief, while she noticed the quiet tenderness hidden behind his shy demeanor. A subtle trust began to grow, like a seed beneath frozen soil. As the long winter pressed on, the air inside the farmhouse warmed with more than just the fire. Caleb found himself lingering over supper, sharing stories of his childhood and listening as Martha spoke of her late husband with both sorrow and gratitude. They were two scarred hearts learning to beat again. Two lives braided together by necessity and something gentler, more profound. One evening, as a blizzard rattled the shutters, Martha's eyes glistened in the lantern glow. Her voice, low but unwavering, carried the weight of a promise and the hope of a future she'd almost buried. She confessed her yearning for a family, for a partner willing to help her carry her husband's dream forward, not just to keep the farm alive, but to bring new life into the world. Caleb's heart pounded at the depth of her trust. He had spent years hiding from connection, convinced no one would ever look at him with such need and faith. But here she was, offering not just her loneliness, but her hope. He reached across the worn wood of the table, taking her hand with a gentleness that spoke louder than any words. That night they stood together at the window, watching the storm ease into a quiet snowfall. Their silence, thick with possibility, spring arrived like a miracle, melting the ice and coaxing green shoots from the earth. With it came a transformation neither of them could deny. Laughter returned to the farmhouse. Caleb's steady presence turned the one-sailing homestead into a thriving haven. Martha's eyes shone with a peace she hadn't felt since before tragedy struck. And soon, the soft swell beneath her apron told of a new beginning, a life that carried the love of the past and the hope of the future. When neighbors finally visited, they were met with warmth in the sight of two people who had found strength, not in perfection, but in shared vulnerability. The house that once echoed with silence now hummed with life. From the crackle of the hearth to the gentle heartbeat beneath Martha's hand, the lonely cowboy and the grieving widow had written a new chapter together, proving that love can root itself even in the coldest ground, when tended with patience and courage. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to True Soul Stories so others can feel the power of love's second chances. Your support keeps these real, soul-stirring tales alive for everyone who believes hope can bloom in unexpected places. Special request: comment below with a single word that describes what this story made you feel. Warmth, courage, or love. Your words can inspire someone else to believe in new beginnings.